Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bells Must Ring podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Rice, here with my usual co-host, Arnav Sarkar. Um, Rutgers has won a football game. You
Let's
know,
go.
um, much to talk about there. Not something that we were necessarily expecting based on our pregame predictions and pregame's picks for on the banks,
Right.
but we find ourselves in a scenario where that last game of the season against Penn State could very well be a win and in or
Oh
lose
my
and go
goodness.
home situation,
All the
which
state.
I'm sure every Rutgers fan predicted at the beginning of the season that would be the climactic battle at the end of the
Right.
season.
Yeah.
I'm
Like Penn
sure,
State.
like
Yeah. Penn
all
State
every
exactly.
I was gonna say, I'm sure everybody thought exactly that was going to be the big heavyweight fight at the end of the season, but we have a game against Maryland to talk about where Rutgers won 35-20. The Terrapins were, they were held to. Sorry, the Rutgers rushing attack was able to victimize the Maryland undersized, I would say, defensive front and relatively thin defensive front too when it comes to a depth rotation. Antwan Raymond carried the ball 41 times for 240 yards and a touchdown, averaging about 5.9 yards per carry. And get ready for the accolades because there's a lot with that
Mhm.
one single game.
Yeah.
So it is the third highest rushing game in school history, highest rushing game against a Big Ten opponent. It is tied for the most carries in a single game in school history, and it is the highest rush game for a Big Ten running back this season. If you did not get all those accolades memorized, go back and watch that clip again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Rutgers was able to. I don't even know how else to say it other than bully ball. They were able to just bully Maryland's defensive line up and down the field. And as you saw as the game went on, those 3, 4, even 5 yard rushes began to rip like 8, 9,
Yeah.
15, even 15 on
15
some
points. Yeah.
occasions.
13, 12. Yeah. Like the whole. Yeah. I mean, what started as kind of, I think the first six plays were all run plays too. They started feeding Raymond. Then they started opening up a little bit. But I mean, as the game went on, the rushes got longer. I mean, it started becoming 7, 8 yards a carry, sometimes 12, 15. There was a 30-yard rush in there. But I mean, they just kept giving it to him. He kept producing. They finally let him get a touchdown at the end of the game after having quite the legacy game. I mean, these stats, third highest rushing game in school history, highest against a Big Ten opponent, tied for most carries in a single game, and then highest rushing game for any back in the Big Ten. So if he doesn't win Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week, I know KJ Duff didn't win it, but I mean, that's going to be a serious problem if they don't give it to Raymond this week. Because
Can you believe he was not named one of the star players of the week by the final drive?
yeah, oh really?
Yeah, he was not.
That's
The
one of the
BTN
big
final
things.
drive did not name him a star
Oh,
player of the week.
that's interesting. I wonder who they did name then.
Well, I think it was a little bit of a snub. So,
Yeah, I mean, it probably should have been him either way, but well, hopefully he gets the honor from the Big Ten itself. Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week because he definitely deserves it. I mean, we were talking about KJ Duff's 241, I believe it was 241 yards, as sensational, and it absolutely was, especially considering it came on only 6 catches. But 240 rushing yards is a whole different. It's like it's roughly the same number, but it's a whole different beast. Like I mean, on the ground versus on the through the air, and most of these
you
rushes don't
expect the
even
explosive plays to come through the air. You expect the plays
exactly.
through the air
Yeah,
to gain more yards because usually, like a pass play, 9 out of 10 times it's gonna gain at least like
at least
eight
7, 8 yards.
yards.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I mean, in KJ Duff's case, every single pass play was like there was like 75, 40. Like he was catching everything down the field. Raymond, he had 41 carries. The long was 34 or something like that. But most of them were 10, 12, 7 or 8. Like he just kept churning and churning and churning and going, and he got rewarded. And it's like I don't even think we noticed for a while because like it was just those types of carries, and Rutgers they were like throwing the ball, and I think we'll also get to this. It's not like they were averse to throwing it, but it was almost like Rutgers used Raymond to attack the Maryland run defense, which was poor. That was their plan, but then they finished them off with a pass. Like every single time they scored a touchdown, it was a nice pass play. Kaliakmanis looked good, but I mean Raymond put up gaudy numbers, but he really did it in a workhorse back way. Like he really
Absolutely
put the team on his back, and it wasn't the most flashy performance, but it was a very strong, dominant performance. And yeah, 5.9 yards a carry, 41 carries, 240 yards. I mean, that just speaks for itself. I mean, that's just incredible. I mean, when you think of a running back having a lot of carries, you think maybe 25, 30 carries. Like Hamananga in his NFL debut had roughly that much. He had almost 200 yards or 170 something yards rushing, 20 receiving. That was a sensational performance as well. But I mean, this one is just a pure like, we're gonna feed it to this guy. He's gonna, get us all the yards. And then Kaliakmanis opened up the pass attack, and the receivers were all on the money all day as well. So that was kind of like the kill shot against the Terrapins.
Well, yeah. First, before we get into any of that, I'm going to run a little quiz by you. Who is the one Rutgers player that has the 2 highest rushing games above Antwan Raymond?
See, it's actually funny because I was wondering that myself. So it's Ray Rice.
It is Ray Rice. Yep.
I happen to look that up actually.
He has the 2 highest rushing games in Rutgers history.
Yeah, I saw it was like 280 in like the International Bowl or something like that, and then 243 against like I forgot which team, like one of the Group of 5 teams or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he had both of the 2 higher performances than Raymond. But yeah, Ray Rice was like a generational running back. Like his numbers were like even that much more off the chart than the backs that are in the NFL nowadays. So from Rutgers at least. But I mean he was different, but at the same time, I mean 240 yards definitely put Raymond in the record books in his own right. So
absolutely,
yeah, really cool to see that. It was just funny because I don't think like me and you realized it. Like we were seeing it on Twitter, like from some of the reporters, like from the game and stuff like that, like checking, and I was like, whoa, like he has. I think at the time he had 170, wasn't quite there yet, but like he was like, I think he was already starting to pass some of the things at like 170, close to 200, and we're like, how much further is he gonna get? And then like he ended up getting 200 for it. And then it became obvious because then his runs started getting longer. They kept feeding him, but in the beginning,
it kept getting into the second level too. As that
in the beginning, I was like,
tired.
Exactly. But in the beginning, it was like, I guess he just had a lot of volume carries, but so much of the success was coming through the air. I was just like, Raymond really has that many yards? Like, when did that happen? But at the
Raymond would get them down the field. You're forgetting that in the fact like he would get them, 4 or 5 yards a pop, and that's something that goes relatively unnoticed. But he got them down the field.
He did.
But then, as you were kind of alluding to, it was. Or as I have so beautifully worded on our outline, it was rough him up with the run, kill him with the pass. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened pretty much all day. Yeah. Antwan Raymond would do a lot of the work, taking the team down the field. Mm-hmm. And then Kaliakmanis would find most likely Ian Strong for the money shot.
Yeah.
Or DT Sheffield on one occasion.
Sheffield, a couple times KJ Duff too. But yeah, you're right. That's what it was. I mean, Raymond would get them down the field. He did a lot of the grunt work, the dirty work, whatever you want to call it. But Kaliakmanis would find the receivers who were also on the money, like we're going to talk about. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what happened. And then towards the end of the game, I mean, it started becoming more obvious. The runs started getting longer, and then it was Raymond time to cap it off with the touchdown. Because after 240 yards on the ground, you want to get in the end zone. So I'm glad they did give it to him. And whether it was an honor thing, whether it was taking time off the clock, which
that kind of iced the game too, if you think about it.
Yeah. Exactly. Because I mean, at that point they were up by, I think, 1 touchdown, 2 touchdowns. So it was about, just keeping the ball on the ground, taking as much time off the clock as you can, not stopping it. So then they continued to feed Raymond, and the rushes started getting longer. And Raymond basically put the game away with that final touchdown that he had as well. So, yeah, I mean, it was just, and I think he still kept going after that because they had the ball again to end the game.
And they almost scored again.
They
You know,
could have
one
probably, and it was, they decided obviously to do the classy thing and just kneel it out, even though they were in a 4th-and-1 situation where I wouldn't have thought it would be super disrespectful to take a field goal, given that Maryland was fighting for that extra yard and it was a messy situation. But Rutgers still decided to get the yard on the ground and kneel it. So,
one
respect for
thing,
that. But I mean, you know what I mean? But yeah, it was
yeah.
a dominant ground performance to end the game, and they just kept doing it and kept giving it to him, and Raymond did not disappoint. So
One thing that I kind of noticed throughout this game and by rewatching it as well is that Rutgers had several opportunities to just blow out Maryland. And
yeah,
it's
they
it's
kind of left
the
them in the game a little bit.
well, first of all, you got to think about it like this. The first drive, if that wacky, zany Kaliakmanis interception did not happen, and they at least boot a field goal, you know, that
Right.
because on the ensuing drive, they got a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken.
Maryland,
No,
yeah.
no, 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 they punted. Sorry. But even still, all of a sudden you're looking at a 38-20 game, which in my opinion isn't exactly close, right?
Yeah,
If they fall on that fumble near their own goal line and prevent that Maryland field goal, let's say they do that and they get the interception,
yeah. I've
you're
been
looking
seeing
at a
people.
38-17 win,
I've
you
been
know?
seeing people on X say that, or even on our site, imagine if the interception didn't happen, if they got on the fumble, if KJ Duff caught it at the 1 yard line when he almost did, all those things would have made it
Right.
blowout. But that is football. I mean, Maryland also probably had a lot of chances where it could have gone the other way too. Like imagine,
If you look at it though, not really. That's
not
the
really.
thing.
But they would have
Not
had to do a lot of work to. I think Rutgers was very close to the kill shot of just pushing it out of reach. Maryland could have been in the game, but every time they kind of had a puncher's chance, they basically Washington just missed the pass and the drive would have just stopped. But even if they made the pass, they would have still had to go down the field and score.
there
And
was one time where they
keep
were
up the score.
killed by a penalty on the
That
field
too,
goal,
the
but
offensive face mask. I think they would have had touchdown if
no,
they did.
it wasn't a face mask. It was a
Or a false
false
start.
start.
Oh,
Yeah,
because they couldn't. Yeah, there was the face mask early, and then there was the false start late. The false start pushed them back, and instead of going for it on, I think, 4th-and-1, it became 4th-and-6, and they decided to just kick, which
yeah.
that's a safer decision. And at that point, it didn't really seem that that it was going to impact too much because it was like a shootout, and I think it was 10-7 Maryland at that time, if I'm not mistaken, and then Rutgers I think took the lead 14-10, I want to say. But it was
Well,
like
after they hit the field goal, it was 10-7.
10-7, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, so then, yeah, I mean, yeah, so both teams had their opportunities. I mean, Maryland also had a couple, with the penalties, with some of the missed passes as well. But they had a couple chances where they could have, gotten some more points, and it could have been a different game on their end. But Rutgers was also very, very close to pushing
and
the game so
even
far out of reach that it wouldn't
well,
have even been that close.
not even just that, but you remember the fourth down in the no, not maybe not the fourth down, but you remember the drive in the fourth quarter that we were moving, but we ended up getting stalled. They called a
Uh,
bunch of running plays in a row. First of all, if
yeah.
Rutgers
Oh my
passes
goodness.
it and hits it in that scenario, that's probably a score. And then at the end of the game, if they decide not to be gentlemen and just decide to chuck one to the end zone, there
Yeah.
are so many opportunities where Rutgers could have easily walked away with a 18-21 point
Yeah,
victory,
we said
and
it
it's
was
just
15, I guess.
honestly it's a little bit relieving to think about because okay, we didn't win by as much as we could have, but we had those opportunities to just
To just annihilate Maryland, really make it look bad on their end.
yeah, and that was not something that I would have expected to
No,
see
even if
out
I
of this
thought we
team.
would have won, I thought it would have been a close win, a one-score game. I could have even maybe seen 7 to 10 points if the offense was really firing, the defense was. But this was a different story. They just wiped them off the field. I mean, like you said, 15 points, but it felt like it could have been more. I mean, Maryland, to their credit, they did get a stop and they got that field goal that pushed them back with an 8, but they weren't really able to get closer than that, and it was kind of nervy for a while because I remember when we got the ball back up 28-17, everybody was going nuts because like we had the ball like around midfield, and we were up by like 2 possessions, and they were playing that hype music, like like basically like we got this, and then then we end up giving the ball back, and Maryland scores a field goal, and then I think again we punt, they get the ball, but then they can't really do too much on offense. We get the ball, then we go down and score the touchdown. So it's still a little bit nervy, but I mean Maryland was kind of in the game, not really, but like I mean they had a chance in the fourth quarter, but our defense, like I mean they kind of stepped up, like they didn't allow Maryland to get back into it, which credit to them for that.
Well, actually, if you take a look at the defensive drives through the third and fourth quarters, Maryland had 4 drives, one of which ended in a field goal, and the other 3 completely stalled out.
Yeah,
whether they be punts, I believe exactly. 2 of them were stops on fourth down as well. So, if you want to talk about, tightening up on defense, that is the performance that we have been waiting for all year.
Season, yeah, absolutely.
Because we have had too much. There are several times earlier in the season where we would have like 3 or 4 good drives in the first half, and then just on defense, I mean, and then just completely let them go through us after that. Yeah. But at least this time, we come out after halftime, and I can almost like safely say that Shiano and the coaching staff outcoached Maryland.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, the touchdown right before the half and then the touchdown right after half to put the game, I believe 11 points. That you can't draw it up any better than that,
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Rutgers sees the weakness that Maryland has on their defensive line. And if you look at the 2 weaknesses that they do have, is that their defensive line isn't very big, their defensive line isn't very deep, and I'll throw a third one in there. People question the conditioning of a Mike Locksley-led team. People question or have been questioning the strength and conditioning that Mike Locksley enforces with his program, because if when we were talking to the guy from the Testudo Times on the previous podcast,
right?
He even said that come the fourth quarter, this team collapses in on itself. So what does that tell me? That tell me that they're not making halftime adjustments, and they're not well conditioned. So, Rutgers was able to take advantage of that, because at the end of the game, really, the Maryland defense looked out of it, while the Rutgers offense looked fresh and good to go. So that's why they were able to start ribbing those big runs at the end.
Yeah, you're right. They just they overwhelmed them. Like you often I mean that's what it is. I don't think Maryland was the most conditioned team. I mean, like you mentioned, so it almost felt like kind of what happens when like a good G5 team plays like a kind of middle level Power 4 team, where they just kind of wear them down at the end. And you could probably make that comparison on other levels of the sport as well, but that's just the one that came to me because I've seen it with Rutgers, even against some of the better ones. And that in this case, that's definitely what happened, because I don't think Maryland was well conditioned. Their defensive line, I mean, their edge rushers, I think were definitely pretty good. That's what they were like known for.
But they were almost like taken out of the play consistently, because if you look at a lot of Raymond's runs, they're not to the outside. They are
right up the middle,
right off the butt cheeks of Felter and Asamoah.
No, the interior definitely delivered in a big way. And I think, Shiano like mentioned this in this presser, but I think a huge difference was people playing in position, having Taj White back in at right tackle, and then having Needham
to see him back, and with a week of rest too.
Yeah, so now everyone on the offensive line is playing in their usual spots. You have your starting 5, or at least your makeshift starting 5. So I mean, they were able to do their job and get a push. And obviously Maryland's defensive line is not exactly the best, or not like as good as Illinois like last week when the run got shut down. But Antwan Raymond and the offensive line definitely, offensive line is definitely a huge part of Raymond's great performance too, to create that much space for him to do what he does best. So obviously both of them both units get the credit, Raymond and his O-line. But I mean, that was just a sensational performance on the ground, and then that's what it did is we kept talking about it during the game, but Maryland ended up like stacking the box and putting 8 guys in the box and setting up one-on-ones in the secondary, and Rutgers continuously took advantage. The receivers were really good today. Ian Strong, another player that's back from injury. 5 catches, 88 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And some of those touchdowns, like the last one or the second touchdown right before the half. Oh my goodness! Like Kaliakmanis put that ball on a rope over the head of Jamar Glasgow. I did not think that was going to work out.
I thought that was going to get picked.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, well, this ball is going like right over the head, and like it was just that's a ball hawking secondary, and he zipped it in there. And Strong, of course, able to reach up and grab it because that's what he does. But I mean, just yeah, but I mean, unbelievable throw and catch, and on the third one, Strong just completely like sidestepped, the corner, and then used his hands to create leverage, or the one in the second half, and then he was open for the touchdown. The first one I think was like a little easier. I don't know. I think that was the one Maryland just kind of
blew past the guy.
Yeah, he just blew past the coverage. So one deep ball, one throw on a rope, that was incredible. And then the third one, he's Strong basically, used his footwork and his hands to create that separation and hauled it in for the touchdown. So a hat trick from Ian Strong. I mean, he's fully back, 100% healthy. He was struggling with injury.
He's finally practicing too.
Yeah. That's another thing Shiano mentioned that made a difference. Him being, able to practice. Obviously, they could work on concepts. They could, all those things that I just mentioned. They ran those plays, I'm sure, to get him open. You let him do what he does best, basically create that separation, high point the football, like all those things. So Strong had like an incredible game. But I mean, yeah, and so did Athan. Like I feel like he had a very solid. The throws he was making. I mean, he had 2 picks. Both of them were like fluky in a way. Like one of them was before the half on a Hail Mary. Like at that point, it just doesn't really matter too much.
I mean, if you in that situation, if you throw a pick, just make the tackle and get to halftime.
Yeah, like what I mean, because you're just throwing it to the end zone in the hopes that somebody catches it. Like you're not really. I mean, I don't want to say you're not responsible for that, but at the same time, like it's more about the receivers, and it's also just like you're trying to create a play. You're accepting of the risk because the risk is very minimal in that situation. You get picked off and you go to the half, or it's incomplete. You go to the half, and the other one, I mean, the one at the goal line. I mean, that was, I guess they had a slant concept in for Strong, but it went off his hands. It got batted in the air a couple of times. I mean, I don't know. I would like to see them run the ball there, especially how run heavy they were being. But, then again, Maryland would also stack the box knowing that a run was coming. So I guess they wanted to throw them off their scent. It didn't work out. I mean, to
be fair, though, like you really can't blame the play call there because, obviously we love our wide receivers. We have stellar wide receivers. But, in that scenario, catch the ball.
Yeah.
Because you remember watching where it was. It bounced off his hands, but it was like right here. It could not have been more accurate.
Yeah, it wasn't like too high or too off the side or like something like yeah, I agree. And plus, like I think Maryland, obviously they're expecting a run there, so they're, you know what I mean. You want to try to throw them off with the pass. Like it is what it is. Like it's one play. Like, and again, I guess my point with that is the 2 picks from Athan weren't like 2 really bad picks from Athan. They were like one of them was off the hands of a receiver. That's not really even on him at all. And the other one was a Hail Mary, and that's also not really that much on him. Or if it was, it's inconsequential. What he did do, though, that should be noted, was 13 for 20, 229 yards, 4 touchdowns. The other touchdown that we didn't mention yet was the one to DT Sheffield. And
pre-snap motion?
Yeah, let's talk about pre-snap motion. Sheffield goes from left to right and then back from right to left. He's in motion. He's open. Nobody goes to that side. And Rutgers scores the touchdown. Like, how about
because we don't throw to the guy in motion whenever he is in motion. And normally we just don't put people in motion in general.
Yeah.
But before we get too far away from it, I wanted to highlight one performance that I don't think we really highlighted enough. The offensive line, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we were looking at the field, there were several times where both of us were like, oh, man, he got stuffed at the line of scrimmage. But then we would look up at the board and it'd say 2nd and 4 or, gain of 4 yards.
Yeah.
And then, as you go back and watch the game, the line of scrimmage, quote unquote, is moving 4 yards
4 yards down
into
the field.
Maryland's territory. You know,
Yep.
the line of scrimmage itself was moving. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that was a really excellent job by the offensive line, first of all, because again, several times you're like, oh, Raymond got stopped at the line of scrimmage. Little
Yeah.
did we know the scrum of people that is supposed to be the line of scrimmage was 4 yards downfield, you know?
Yeah. It just
But
doesn't look like it sometimes, like from our vantage point in the stands. Like it's hard to like sometimes tell like where that line, you
well,
know what I mean, exactly is. But
I have all the games recorded, obviously,
right,
and
MBT
we
and
were able
plus
to
and all that
watch
stuff,
a
yeah.
couple moments, and well, not a couple moments. I was able to watch a lot of the game again
Mm.
yesterday. So you literally see like the line almost like
So,
shifting 3-4 yards
4 yards
downfield.
back. Yeah, that's very interesting, actually. Yeah, I mean, it is like that. Like, that's good offensive line play. Like you always say, you want to move the defensive line back. That's
Yeah,
exactly what they did. You don't want the defensive line to be in your backfield, so you want to win that.
obviously.
Yeah, obviously not. That would be disastrous. But you want to push the pile forward. Yeah, win the line of scrimmage and open up the holes for Antwan Raymond, and they did all of those things. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then to highlight, again, before we got too far away from it, Kaliakmanis needed this game. He did. After
Mhm.
that poor showing against Illinois,
Yeah.
he needed a game where he was like dealing. And, yes, he had 2 interceptions, two of them that I don't fault him for.
Mhm.
Watchers and listeners can have their own opinion, but two of them that I personally don't
Yeah,
fault him
me
for.
neither.
And then you like look at some of the throws he made that game. Like again, rewatching that game against rewatching that throw where what was his name? Glassnor,
Glasgow?
Glaster.
Jamar Glasgow, yeah.
Yeah, he threw that on an absolute line.
I
Like
know, like that throw is just so impressive. He's moving up in the pocket, and then
yeah,
you're right, he's moving up in the pocket, and then he throws like a laser over the head of Glasgow. Like I did not think that was gonna work out so well when he was on the run for spell, and then throwing it that close to where Glasgow was, but he knew exactly where Strong would be, and Strong was right there to haul that one in. Like I was just like, whoa, like this is like that's like an NFL, like that's like a tight window throw, like that he made right there. Like that one was like so
right.
impressive, yeah.
But
And some of the other
Kaliakmanis
ones,
needed
yeah,
a game like this after
he
that poor
did.
showing against
Yeah,
Illinois, where he looked
he
completely
looked
off. Now he
horrible.
gets to go into the bye week off a game where it was like,
With
wow,
some
okay,
with some confidence, like, yeah,
there
like
we go.
I still got this, like, you know what I mean?
And the fact that there will be meaningful football in late November in
Yes, sir.
Piscataway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think you said it. I mean, yeah, meaningful football. Receivers did well. Running backs did well. I mean, KJ Duff had a couple catches downfield. Only 2 for 69 after his really good performance at Purdue. But I mean, he wasn't. He still had 2 catches for 69. DT Sheffield had a really nice route where he caught that one down the sideline. That was cool. And he had 4 catches for 56. But I feel like he stepped up in a bigger way than we've seen in recent weeks. As a chain moving wide receiver. But he's got that elusive speed where he can like really run a nice route and make a catch. Like that was really cool to see as well. So I mean, all three of them, I guess, doing what they do best. Yeah, and Kaliakmanis doing what he does best. I mean, so many times he was on the run and then just throws. I mean, Rutgers blew by Maryland's coverage, and Kaliakmanis just launches like a perfect pass down the field. And most of the time, Rutgers receivers haul them in. A couple times they didn't. Maryland secondary was on top of it, but that was like once or twice. Like most of the time, it was just it was the receivers. But it felt like kind of like this game kind of went in a lot of opposite ways that everyone was like expecting, like in terms of the trends. Like it was supposed to be Rutgers secondary was supposed to be pretty bad. Maryland was supposed to expose us even without a mobile quarterback. And on the other side, Maryland secondary was going to be every bit as strong as the receivers, and the run game was going to be a Rutgers advantage in our run game. But it played out the exact, like in many of the ways it played out in the opposite way. Maryland secondary was the one that was getting exposed by the Rutgers receivers. Maryland, Malik Washington was not able to complete a lot of the passes. They weren't able to, so it's like Maryland secondary was the one that was kind of getting exposed, and then the weaker Rutgers secondary actually held up with Maryland's receivers. But then Malik Washington was supposed to be the a really good pocket passer. He turned into anything but. He was not a great pocket passer. What he was a great runner. And the Maryland running game that was supposed to be like really, really bad also did pretty well. So it's just like this game just went in all the opposite ways that I think any expert, any analyst, even any casual fan probably could have predicted it to go if you know like anything about the trends of these teams. So it was just really surprising to see. The only one trend that did hold up was Rutgers exposed a very, very bad Maryland run defense, and that was a big reason why they did win the game.
Well, yeah, and to be honest with you, I haven't checked in the last 30 minutes and 40 seconds, but I am very surprised versus the Maryland insiders that I talked to. I am very surprised that Locksley has not been given his pink slip. Sounds like there's rumors swirling over there, and that's what a loss to Rutgers does to you.
Especially this year's Rutgers. Yeah, I mean, people are saying the same things about. Some people, not as loud, but like about Schiano just like a week ago. So I mean,
Well, here's the thing, if Schiano gets back to a bowl game this season, that goes away.
Yeah, agree.
If they find a way to knock off, any one of their last two opponents, particularly, and if they beat their last opponent of the season, I don't think anybody's going to even mention the word fire around Greg Schiano.
That's true, because at the end of the day, that still shows, an upward trajectory, progress, like this and that. It took a while, but you're right. I think you're right. And now if they miss a bowl and go 5-7, then maybe a little bit.
Then there's some issues.
There's some pressure on for him on next year, but Locksley, that things have been. Yeah, you're right. Then there will be some issues because missing a ball.
Even for Locksley, right? Yeah. Things arguably have been going worse because, if at least in recent trends, right? Because in Locksley's sixth year, which was last year, the team went 4-8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even if that we don't make a bowl game this year, Schiano still goes 5-7.
Right.
And it's like, 4-8, 5-7. Like, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
5-7 can show that you're right there to some people.
Yeah.
But 4-8 shows you're not even close.
You kind of mailed it in after the non-conference is what that shows, honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
5-7 means you at least fought through the conference slate and you fell a little bit short. It's it's a 1-game difference, but it's like a big one. And also 5-7 could get you into a bowl, as Rutgers did.
But nobody would look at that and applaud.
No, not really. But the 5-7 just does look a lot better than 4-8. You know what I mean? It shows fight. It shows this team just fell short. They won a couple conference games. 4-8 is you barely won one conference game and you won 3 gimme games. What are you guys doing? Kind of thing. So it's it does look a lot better. And for Locksley, I was seeing with Maryland, they have a lot of the same issues. His buyout, I think it's only $13 million, but they kind of have the same issues with money and raising those funds. And that's why I think he's still there and he's probably still going to be there because they, as bad as things are and as much as people might want him gone, I don't think anybody's willing to pay to get him out of there, what's been going on in these bigger schools. And I guess at Rutgers you could say maybe some of that is similar, but I think it's probably a little bit worse than Maryland considering the buyout amount is even lower and the team's doing even worse. So but yeah, I mean that's kind of what my take on it is from seeing insiders from Maryland's end of things, and some similarities with Rutgers and I guess some differences as well.
Again, I'm very much a proponent of if you don't make a bowl for 2 seasons going, then you're probably gone.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe if you're completely rebuilding a complete like crap program.
Yeah, you get like
If you're taking a team that went 2-10, 1-11 the
yeah,
season prior, and you're trying to get them back to competitive, yeah, you have a grace period to get to a
yeah,
bowl game
yeah,
because
for sure.
recruiting is not easy with a team like that.
Like Purdue this year is like a good, like they've shown some upward, like they've shown some progress. I mean, you know what I mean?
They doubled their wins from last year.
Exactly. And even in the Big Ten games, I mean, they almost beat Rutgers. They almost beat Michigan, which is like the more shocking one, honestly. Like they've shown a lot of fight. They haven't been able to win one yet, but they haven't gotten like blown off the field. Like last year, they were getting completely blown off the field every time they played a Big Ten game. This year, they've at least been in these games like to a large extent. So even if it's 2-10 at the end of the year, which it probably will be, like, it's not going to be like, what the heck is going on? Like now next year, they might end up going 4-8 or making more progress. You know what I mean? Everything's
Well, if
gonna
they go 4-8 next year, that's a good sign.
exactly like the ball's going in an upward, trajectory, or the arrow is going in
The
an upward
ball is the
trajectory.
program.
Yeah, that's our phrase. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, for Maryland, like they were making bowl games, they were winning bowl games. I think they had like a 3-year bowl win streak or something like that, and they were being competitive with like teams like Michigan State, or well, not Michigan State, even like Michigan, Ohio State. They were in those games for a while, and then like with Talia, and then I feel like the second he left, like things just started like looking down. So
And
you know,
also, remember when Mike Loxley confidently said, "We are in a position to start challenging for Big Ten championships"?
yeah, I
I'm
remember
like,
that.
okay, buddy.
Yeah, like so you roll. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's just I don't know. I mean, Maryland, yeah, it's weird. Like it's kind of like they're in a similar position to us, but like a little bit worse, honestly. And people have less patience, and the team's doing worse. And I don't know. You know what I mean? And they're going on a downward trend. Like Rutgers isn't really going on a downward trend. I mean, depending on how this year finishes, like it could be like a year of it, but it's not really as pronounced as Maryland going from I don't even know, like 8-4, 7-5 to
the
or
biggest
whatever it
problem,
is to 4-8. On the other hand, for the
right?
second straight year now, because that was the record last season. I'm pretty sure too.
The biggest problem, especially if Rutgers makes the bowl game, biggest problem that people are going to point out is that they're not, or at least for the past 3 seasons, they haven't gone up. They've
They've kind of
flatlined.
plateaued, yeah,
You
at
know,
the 6-win mark, or at the last year they went 7-5, and that was with the very soft schedule on top of that. And yeah, and then this year obviously they weren't able to take that next step. Like they might not even make a bowl game in the first place, and even if they do, like I mean, it's probably gonna be one of the worst ones. And that whole key stretch of Iowa to Washington, like where can you beat a team in the middle of the pack, or can you meet a team that's a little bit better or even at the same level? And they kind of really haven't. The only ones they've gotten are like Purdue and Maryland in conference. And honestly, that worries me a little bit with Penn State, because as bad as their record looks, I mean, they've been playing like pretty good, and they're probably going to be favored the rest of the way now. So I mean, like that, I don't know. Like I hate the whole tiers thing, but if Rutgers like loses to Penn State and they go 5-7 with their 2 conference wins being Maryland and Purdue, that is going to sting. Not only because it's Penn State, but that's a major reason. But secondly, missing the bowl. But third of all, like those are the wins that we're like going to be like saying, oh yeah, that's great. No, it isn't. Like it really is not at that point. So I mean, yeah, I mean it's going to suck, but hopefully we can win against Penn State. But at least now we're in the position. If we lost to Maryland, it would be a really, really disappointing season, and there'd be serious questions about this team, much bigger one. So yeah, I mean, you got to take it for what it's worth. But I mean, I don't know, 5-7, not the greatest. 6-6, like obviously that's where you want to be. But if we lost to Maryland, like it would have been a really disappointing like season. So I mean, we got that win. So now at least if they, whether they win or not, at least they have something to play for. And the
meaningful
season,
football in late
yeah.
November in Piscataway.
Exactly. That's still better than having the season end, basically effectively end with the loss to Maryland. So now you have something to play for. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. Like, and who knows what happens in that game. I mean, Ohio State's Ohio State, but Penn State, I mean, I don't know. They might lose to Michigan State or Nebraska. We don't know yet, but they also might steamroll both of them and come into here and maybe do that to us, or maybe win a close game, or maybe lose. Like, who nobody knows. Like, there could be so many different ways this plays out over
The
the next.
narratives are crazy for that game too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's it's going to be interesting because it's what like Penn State, Rutgers, 5-6, 5-6, bowl eligibility on the line. I mean, the history of the series, the way Rutgers fans feel about Penn State. I mean, I don't know which would be worse, a blowout, like embarrassing loss, or a heartbreaking close one, because both of them have been problematic. But we haven't even had the second one against Penn State in a long time, and that at least would show
What if we
progress.
just beat them? We
Yeah,
could
let's
just
just beat
beat
them
them.
outright. Forget it. Like, you know what I mean? They're vulnerable this year. Like, if we can't do it this year, when are we going to be able to do it? Is the question, I guess. It becomes Penn State's whole thing is, if not now, when. But like for us, also, it's kind of been like that. And like, if not now, when against them? You know, when
Yeah.
can we beat a team like that who has that reputation, even if they're not the same way? You know, when can we like get that, you know, quote unquote signature win? And I don't think this year beating Penn State would be a signature win, but I mean, it would be a pretty good one. So like, you know, let's hope for the best. I mean, it's going to be an exciting finish to the season. And it could be the biggest Penn State Rutgers game we have ever seen in the rivalry if both teams are 5-6.
Well, definitely we have ever seen.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, no, for them against us, like, have they like seen a bigger one too, or like, I mean,
Well, when Penn State and Rutgers played when Rutgers first entered the contest, that was
that was
a
a big one.
conference. Sorry,
So yeah,
that was a grudge match. But and I'm sure there were some meaningful games like way back in like the '80s or whatnot. But
yeah. But I don't know. I just feel like
yeah,
this is a win and in losing loser goes home. Like, I mean, that's just a big game no matter what. And then then there's this aspect of rivalry in it as well, and like grudge match.
the
Like that's just
rivalry we don't have.
yeah, exactly. But you know what I mean? But like this, but the thing is, a game like this could like, sometimes I'm always like, oh, it's petty and it's jealousy, and maybe Rutgers fans want to have some fun too on top of that. But this could give Rutgers fans a real reason to hate Penn State. Like if they, you know what I mean? Either way,
Or
like
maybe
this game,
they can give them a real reason to hate us.
exactly. You know what I mean? This game could start like something meaningful in the rivalry that isn't just, oh, we're jealous and oh this and oh that. Like, this could be, like this could be a real reason for an actual rivalry to come out of this. That makes sense. You know what I mean? Like this game is like, yeah, I mean, it's monumental. I mean, even if you take off Penn State and Rutgers and you put two random teams together that are 5-6, that's a big game. And forget about that. Like now you have us going against them, a team that Rutgers fans hate, like to no end. And, Penn State playing for a bowl game and, trying to put their season together. Rutgers trying to, complete their season. That's been an up and down mess of its own. And oh my goodness, like fireworks. I mean, I wrote this in my article, but I mean, this game could have the earthquake of a magnitude in Piscataway, or I said that wrong. The magnitude of an earthquake in Piscataway on November 29th, 2 days after Thanksgiving. Mark in your calendars. If Penn State and Rutgers are both 5-6 coming into this, it is going to be probably the biggest Rutgers Penn State game we might ever see, like in our
And show
lives.
up to the game. If
Yeah,
you're listening,
we want a
show up to the
sellout.
game.
We want a sellout.
We don't want blue. We want red.
Yeah, that's a good point, because we definitely don't want half the stadium to be white and blue and the other one to be red. Although that would also kind of be cool in a way if you think about it. But no, I want
No, that wouldn't be cool at all.
only if we beat them. But yeah, no, you're right. Maybe like yeah, we want as many Rutgers fans in there as possible. We want a home field advantage. We don't want like Penn State fans taking over the stadium and celebrating a bowl bid on our field. That would be the worst thing in the world, probably. But we want Rutgers to be able to have that home advantage, so we can pull out the dub over the Nittany Lions. And oh my God, what a win that would be for this program! Like between the hatred, between the bowl bid, between not getting between the hatred and the bowl bid and leaving them in the cold, like that could just be a win that really jolts this fan base, jolts this team. I mean, puts an exclamation mark on a season where they've really struggled at times. And and yeah, I mean, it could signal that next step in a way, I guess, the way Penn State's been playing, like against some of these tougher teams. Like it absolutely could be if they they come out strong the next couple, but we don't know just yet. I mean, Penn State could also slip up and then maybe their morale's down and we take advantage. We don't know, but most likely I have a feeling that's not going to be the case. I have a feeling both of these teams are going to come in 5-6, especially with Raiola injured. So I mean, let's see what happens. But I'm excited for this finale. I really am.
Yeah, me too. But that pretty much does it for all the football talk that we have for you. We do have some couple other things on the agenda today. First of all, men's basketball, they won their opening match against Ryder, 81-53. Tariq Francis, 20 points. Dylan Grant with 17. Jamichael Davis with 15. Buchanan coming off the bench had 11. Zerno hit 2 threes, got 7 points. One interesting thing, or I guess one continuous problem that we've had from last year is the center play has just been awful. Agbole did not score a single point, played most of the game, registered 10 rebounds, but did not score a single point. By fall, did not see the court that much. He gave us the whole like, oh, you needed a center and I'm here, but he didn't play. So
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what to do there. I don't know what to say about that. But team looked good. We were expected to win by 18. That was the Vegas line. And we ended up winning by, what's that, 28?
I think 20, yeah, 28, yeah.
28, yeah. So, much better than expected. I'm hoping it continues because, like, part of me wants to go like, oh, much better than expected. And then the other part of me wants to go, it's Ryder. So,
yeah, we have to take it with a grain of salt, obviously.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to break down these basketball games until we get into better conference play and we really see what this team is. But yeah, so they have 2 upcoming games against Maine and Lehigh. Obviously, none of those teams are real game breakers. Maine lost to George Washington, and I believe they lost. I know they lost to somebody else. It's escaping me right now. Yeah. They lost by 20 points to George Washington, which is just awful. Fun fact: Cooper Flagg's twin brother is on Maine.
Yeah, Ace Flag. Oh, so we're gonna get to see him today in the game, I guess, right?
Yeah, we will.
Interesting. Yeah, Ace Flag. Yeah, that's a name. So I mean, the second loss they had was to Stony Brook, who, by the way, beat our women's team yesterday. So we'll talk about that in a second. But so not looking too great for them. They come here. Rutgers. I mean, it was a slow start for the men's team too. We were a little worried that that was going to be the state of the team. They're going to be in a dogfight with Ryder the entire way out, maybe, or for a little bit longer at least. But no, I mean, that was just the first half.
Took care of business on opening night. You can't really ask for anything.
Yeah, and they exceeded the Vegas win line by about 20 or about 10 points. I mean, Ryder's not a very good team. I think they're somewhere in the 300s in Ken Palm. They're among one of the worst teams, I guess, in Division I, probably. But the Rutgers still took care of them pretty handily. I mean, they defended well. Ryder just didn't really have the height to really even get that separation or get those threes off. But they kind of ran out of offense is kind of what happened. But Rutgers, on the other hand, I mean, they had a decent amount of offense going. I mean, Tariq Francis definitely. I mean, his, some of his moves and his dribbling, and he also shot 4 for 8 for downtown. So it looks like he's the transfer up from NJIT. Definitely, he can definitely score. Dylan Grant, I think he's going to take a huge step this year. He already showed at 17 points. Jamichael Davis in his third year, 15. Like you said, Buchanan with 11. Zerno with 7, 2 threes, which that looked pretty exciting to see for sure. Hopefully that continues. And fall, that's the strange part. Only 4 minutes. I don't know. Maybe they didn't think he was ready, or who knows what it was. But I mean, they're trying to probably still work through their rotations, because I know Javante Ware also played a decent amount of minutes as well. Agbole got the lion's share of minutes at center, which is very frustrating if you know anything about Emmanuel Agbole and the way he's been playing. And again, 0 points. He looked like he showed some improvement, but not a lot in his footwork and everything. He got 10 rebounds, so that side of the ball, I guess he contributed well on, but it's just disappointing. I mean, even Ware put the ball in the basket in his, I think, under 10 minutes of action or something like that. He had 2 points, but it's just he just I don't know what it is. He just doesn't do the little things right. Sometimes his footwork, his shot making, his defensive ability. So many times he's chasing guys at the 3-point line and the rim is empty. There's just all these head scratching moments with Agbole, and we saw that all over again. And so yeah, I mean, he had 10 rebounds, but it's just, I don't know. Like, I mean, I just don't know if that's really our answer at center. Like, I thought we were going to see more Bayfall in there. Maybe we will in the future.
Well, but Byfall is like really skinny. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So it's like
It's not like
we
he
have.
what's a starting center at Kansas State, and now he's coming over here. Like we have to keep. He's a third string center there. He barely played, barely saw the floor, like barely put up stats at least. And at least Ogbole, like
We
whatever it is, he has done that, and he has the experience in the system. So you know what I mean. It like until proven otherwise, he's probably going to be like I don't know, the main
this
guy at least, if not the starter. I don't know.
Well,
But
the strength and size of Agbole is hard to ignore. The
yeah,
blocking ability of Byfall is also hard to ignore. And Javante Ware can shoot the basket. I mean, shoot the ball. So we know that he has some offensive production. And with all three of them, we probably have about one complete center.
yeah.
So
I saw that somewhere too. Yeah, one with shot making, one with like rebounding, and one with size and like something like that. And it's just like,
yeah,
yeah. So, I mean, that's interesting. So, I
frustrating.
mean, yeah, yeah,
But
it's
we
very
have
frustrating.
Yeah, I was gonna say we also have some women's ball to talk about.
Right, right, right.
If I can, okay.
Yeah, I mean, the women's
Um,
basketball team too. Like, they started 2-0 on the season, but they ended up 2-1 after falling to Stony Brook, which I had mentioned a little bit earlier. But yeah, I mean, the weird part is like I think with the first week of the season, there was one team on the schedule that was not like the other two, but it was like Quinnipiac was I think 28-5 last year. They'd beaten Princeton, who had beaten Rutgers. They were like a team to watch out for. It's like a mid-major that could really make some noise, maybe make the tournament this year. They definitely probably still could, honestly. I mean, Fairfield is the only other team in that conference that I think is as good or better. But Rutgers was in a dogfight with them. I think 3 quarters in, like Quinnipiac was like leading the way, and then Rutgers used a really good fourth quarter to like take over that game and end up winning it. So I guess vibes are still good. Nene Dadaye, I think has been a key player for Rutgers really the last 2 weeks, leading them in scoring, but she had like 30 or not 30, 23 points in that game and like 10 rebounds or 9 rebounds against against Quinnipiac. So yeah, Rutgers, they survived a tough test from a mid-major opponent that was pretty competitive, multiple people in double figures on their side, on our side as well, Ivy 19, Perkins 10. So they were able to survive that. But then going into this game against Stony Brook was not a very good team last year. I mean, they were among the worst in the CAA. They were the 12th seed, 12 seeded team with a record of 12-18. They lost to the 13 seeded Hampton Pirates in the tournament in the first round of the CAA tournament by 1 point. But that Hampton team went 8-22. So either way, they went 12-18. So, but that you have to remember that's a CAA, not the Big Ten. So they were probably even worse than that against power teams. But this game, they came out here and they led pretty much almost the entire game, but it was close. It was 15-14 after one. It was 33-30 after two. So it was a back and forth affair. A couple of their guards or players, Janae Brantley at 23, Caitlin Frost at 21. But in the third quarter still was close. The fourth quarter was 21-9 Stony Brook, and they went on these big runs of 9-2, 14-0. I think the big takeaway is Rutgers just really struggled rebounding the basketball, and they got dominated in the paint. They were definitely outshot and out rebounded in the paint, and that I think that's strange because I think Rutgers even had like a height advantage. They had multiple 6'3" players on the team, but a couple of them got into foul trouble towards the end with Zakara Perkins and Amani Lester. I think that also didn't help, but it feels like the paint execution, the rebounding is off. The Rutgers has a relatively tall team for women's basketball, especially against non-conference opponents who are probably going to be shorter than that. Maybe Big Ten has some of the other bigger teams in there that can match up with Rutgers, but even against a team like Stony Brook, who I'm sure was the big underdog coming into this game, they were not able to rebound. They were not able to score in the paint, or Stony Brook was able to do those things better than the Knights, and it's a bit troubling. I mean, I've been seeing people,
it's really like embarrassing almost. It's a
yeah,
little embarrassing.
it's a
Like,
little embarrassing because a lot of people are even saying that Kelly Zinn might be thinking, you know what I mean, this should be like a coaching change that she could make, like I mean, I don't know if we're really at that point yet, but I know people are starting to.
Maybe at the end of the season.
Maybe, yeah, it's definitely not right now because people are. I mean, with Cokebeats Washington, kind of like similar to the men's team, they haven't really made too much progress over the years, and they've still kind of been among the bottom of the Big Ten. And now you lose a game in the non-conference to, Stony Brook, not Auburn, not Princeton, not even Quinnipiac. Although they did beat Quinnipiac, which is the funny part. Like I was chalking this one up as a win alongside Wagner, and then I was like, well, Quinnipiac, I don't know if they really are that good, they'll win. If they aren't, they might lose. That's a team that could beat them. But instead, it was Stony Brook to not only win, but win by 17 points at JMA, which was just absolutely stunning that they didn't have an answer for, Stony Brook. But Caitlin Frost at 21 points, 10 rebounds. I mean, they definitely out-rebounded the Scarlet Knights. They outshot them in the paint. They also forced 19 turnovers from Rutgers, and I think they only had like 12. So just not great execution. But, at the end of the day, I mean, it's one game. It just doesn't look like a promising one. This week, Rhode Island and FDU coming into town. So some more good mid-major teams, I guess. Like Rhode Island's definitely, one of the better teams in the A10. FDU, I think, should be a win for Rutgers. That's a team from the NEC. They made the tournament, but that's not really exactly a great league. They've gotten blown out both of their opening games at Purdue and Notre Dame. I think Rutgers should be able to take care of business, but that's a team that also made the tournament. They had a really good record last year as well. I think of like 29-4 or something like that, but that was coming against much worse opponents, especially with the size advantage that I believe Rutgers is going to have in this game. They should be able to win that one. Rhode Island, I'm a little bit more worried about now, though. So I don't know. And then after that, they get on a plane and they take on Auburn in a rematch against Maya Petticord and their team over there. So yeah, I mean, the schedule's going to start getting a little bit more difficult. Even this week, road trip at Auburn, 3 more games against easier opponents, and then you got Iowa, Princeton. And then pretty much soon after that, you're in Big Ten play. So things are quickly starting to ramp up for this women's team. And if they're, given that they already have a loss to Stony Brook, like I just don't, you know what I mean? Like I guess you have on the outline, how do they rebound from here? Well, they're definitely going to have to rebound from here, win both of these games this week, and then go into Auburn with, I guess, the hope and intention of winning. Although I just don't know, what exactly is the likelihood of that.
Yeah, I don't know how you're going to knock off Auburn if you can't beat Stony Brook.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, now Auburn also struggled against Charlotte in their opener, but they won by 13 in overtime, and then they blew out Alabama State. But yeah, I mean, that's just it's not too promising. But I just find it strange that they beat Quinnipiac and then they lost to Stony Brook. So maybe something was off about how good both of those teams were projected to be, or something like that. I don't know, but like who knows? But Stony Brook also lost by 24 to Syracuse. And I don't think Syracuse is exactly like a power in women's basketball either. They last year they were 12-18. They lost to Boston College in the first round of the ACC tournament, so they weren't exactly a very good team. Last year they still beat Stony Brook by 24 points, and now Rutgers loses by 17. And that just doesn't look really promising. So hopefully they can get it together, get the ball rolling. A couple more wins would be nice, I guess, and then head out to Auburn, and you get to really see where this team is against a power level competition. But I think we lost Andrew for a little bit, but that's pretty much where I was at with women's basketball. I guess in terms of some of the other non-revenue sports, Rutgers field hockey, they got bounced by Michigan 2-1 in the Big Ten tournament quarterfinals. They ended up finishing the season 9-9, and even 9-9, 4-4 in the Big Ten conference, and they did not make the NCAA tournament, which the bracket was revealed last night. Only 2 teams from the entire Big Ten conference did make the tournament, which was Northwestern, who was, I believe, number 1 when we played them, and number 1 for a while in the season. But UNC actually got the top seed. Iowa was the other team to make it from the Big Ten. They beat Rutgers. I guess they had a pretty good record, but I thought the Big Ten had a lot of tough teams in there. I was expecting more from the Big Ten. Only 2. I know Princeton made it. A lot. I guess they have automatic bids as well, so a lot of the other conference champions made it into the tournament. I don't believe Monmouth did, but yeah, I mean Rutgers did not make it. Obviously, you have 9 tough losses to teams that were ranked in the top 15, but that's still 9 losses. Like you can't excuse that many losses and say that this is a tournament team when your record is an even 500 both in and overall in conference and overall. So unfortunately, Rutgers just wasn't good enough. It was very marginal. They lost a lot of overtime games this season, a lot of one-score games against good teams, a lot of blowout wins against bad teams. But at the end of the day, like we've seen that with other sports too. That's just not going to get you into the
I feel
NCAA.
like if they just had a couple of those overtime games go their way, because they had one against UConn,
Connecticut, yeah.
but if they had a couple overtime games go their way, we would be talking about this team in the tournament. I mean,
Right.
how many games went in overtime? Like 4?
4 or 5 or something. I don't know. I mean I think Maryland and Iowa, I think were both overtime losses.
I think if they take 3 of those, it's like now we're talking about like a completely different team here.
Yeah, because Princeton was an overtime loss. That's a team that like made the tournament. Yeah, I mean, yeah, so many of the other ones. Michigan was the first time they lost 2-1, not in overtime. Then they lost to Iowa 4-3 in overtime. Maryland for 1-0. Michigan again the tournament 2-1 in double overtime. So yeah, I mean if a few of those go their way, like this could be a different team with a different record, double-digit wins.
Moving on in the Big
Yeah.
Ten tournament, which is big.
Exactly. If they win another game there, yeah, I mean, exactly. That could have been a team that made the tournament. Although I don't know because it's just like I don't really see a lot of Big Ten teams in here, even the ones that except for Iowa. So there's definitely would have been a chance if they ended up winning those games that they would have made the tournament. It's unfortunate that they weren't able to, especially because there's so many close games. It wasn't like they were completely overmatched. They just weren't good enough to finish the job. So they had a lot of really standout players this season, like Emily Nichols, who's I believe a redshirt freshman goalie, and I think she led the Big Ten in saves like all year pretty much. I think she still probably does, or something like that. And then in terms of other players, puck winner, defensive phenom, Olivia Fraticelli, goal scorer, multiple goal scorers. Martha Goodridge, multiple players who have won weekly awards on this team. So, just Olivia Deswan won Big Ten Freshman of the Week. So there's been a lot of like award-winning players on this Rutgers team. So I mean, Polina Nicholas, who's I believe they're one of their captain and puck winner, named all first team All Big Ten. Martha Goodridge and Emily Nichols named to the All Freshman team, and Olivia Beatty was named winner of the Big Ten Sportsmanship Award. But I mean, still, like I mean, that's just that's pretty good. I mean, they had a lot of really good players, and they just weren't able to, I guess, put it together and win those tournament games, or not only tournament games. They weren't able to really beat too many ranked opponents, win too many close games, and sometimes that is like where things are decided at the end of the day. I mean, can you win a ranked game? Can you win a close game? Stuff like that. We talk about it in football and like in basketball like all the time. So unfortunately, that kind of doomed them. But yeah, I mean, in terms of other non-revenue news, men's soccer also not the greatest end to their season. They lost to Indiana 5-0, which is just a very lopsided score for soccer. They've really been on a downward trend as of late. Like after having a really good September, October, they haven't, or even for a very good start to the season. They have not won a game since October 10th, which seems really strange considering they've been pretty good this season. But they've lost the last 4 games that they've played, or last 4 out of 5, and they have a tie in there to Michigan State as well to snap the losing skid. But I mean, they lost to all the top teams in the Big Ten. They lost to Maryland and Washington 2-0, 2-0. And then they also lost to UCLA 5-2. They tied Michigan State 1-1, and then they obviously the 5-0 loss against Indiana. So now they're not making the Big Ten tournament, which is only a 14 tournament to begin with. But with the record of 8-6-3 overall and 3-5-2 in the Big Ten, like I don't think that's a tournament team. Like it looked like for a while that they probably would be, but
no, they're not making the tournament.
Yeah, the way they finished the season and these losses getting worse and worse, and their overall record now being under 500 in Big Ten play and barely over 500 overall. That's just not. Yeah, this doesn't look good. They had a much better year, I think, than they've had in a while, and given what their usual like standard is, like I think, usually the women's team's the team that's way ahead, and they've kind of been struggling. But so compared to that, I think they overachieved it, but that's a. But they're not going to make the tournament. But hopefully they have put together like kind of the foundation now that they can go out there next year and make a real push for the tournament. And for maybe even to be among the top teams in the Big Ten, because this was definitely a really promising season. And we talked about Jashai Shelb, who had 7 goals. I mean, he had a hat trick in one game. I mean, if some of these players are coming back, I mean, like, Dan Karsten, like so many of these different players that they really did a good job with the portal, and like all the guys that they ended up getting were really good. I know their goalie's pretty good, CR and Dalton. I believe he's graduating, if I'm not mistaken. So, but he's been rock solid for like the last several seasons now. But yeah, it's just unfortunate that after the year that they were having like that, this is kind of like the end result in it.
Yeah. Just gonna kind of like move through the rest of these. Um, Volleyball lost both their weekend matches. Um, they lost to Michigan on Friday, Ohio State on Sunday. They got a West Coast trip coming up against USC and UCLA. Currently, they sit at 11 and 15, 2 and 12 in the Big Ten. And as always, wrestling is back doing their work.
Mm-hmm.
Number 14, Rutgers defeats Navy 24-12. Freshman Easton Doster, I hope I'm saying that, went 4-0 en route to an individual title in the 157-pound Brown division, while classmate Devon Magro delivered 3 wins to secure the first in the 149-pound white division. Competing unattached, redshirt freshman Nick Villani, a 149-pounder, and sophomore Connor Harrier, 157-pounder, earned individual titles in their respective pools, both going 3-0 on the day. To my knowledge, that was in a tournament, right? That was against Navy. That was in a tournament.
Well, I think on Saturday was the head-to-head against Navy, but on Sunday I think it was a tournament against like other wrestlers. So it's kind of like in a way like the All-Star Classic, but it wasn't like the All-Stars. It was just
I was gonna say, I didn't, just to not confuse anybody. We beat Navy, and then there was a tournament. It wasn't
it was like invitational. Yeah, it wasn't like those weren't part of the head-to-heads, but that was something separate. It was in the same area, I think, in Bethlehem or wherever it was, but in a different high school. But it was an individual tournament there where multiple of the freshmen won. So it looks like they brought in some of their younger players who maybe don't see that much time. They were able to get some wins in their competitions. The team also got a win. They look, I mean, to be off to a good start. Obviously, again, like easier competition in the beginning, but Navy, I'm sure, isn't. It's definitely getting tougher as we go, because 24-12 is definitely a lot closer than the way those first 3 bouts went on opening weekend at JMA. So the schedule is only going to continue to get tougher. But I think next week they have the Keystone Classic at Penn, so that's something I guess to keep in mind for the future. But that's pretty much where Rutgers wrestling is at.
Always the most consistent program at Rutgers. I mean,
they're always ranked, and they're always among the top. I mean, Scott Goodell is definitely a very good coach. Another conference where the Big Ten is very competitive in. Penn State,
no, the Big Ten is the best.
The best, and Penn
State, it's not even like
Iowa.
It's not even a debate. It's not a question. The Big Ten is the best. Penn State and Iowa have essentially ran the ship for 40 years going now.
Yeah, it's insane like how dominant those programs are and how many teams are in the rankings from the Big Ten. But Keystone Classic next week, and then a meet at Davidson, or home versus Davidson, and then NC State, Oklahoma. So there's some really good ranked matchups on the schedule later in December that I think will be very exciting for Rutgers fans to see. A couple bouts at JMA coming up as well. So I mean, the NC State one's on the road in North Carolina, and that's Davidson and NC State's the same day. But then Oklahoma is going to be a huge meet against the number 19 team at JMA. Drexel the next day, and then after that a little bit of a break before Big Ten action kicks off with at Penn State number 1. January 10th. So a lot of wrestling on the schedule for sure. But in terms of volleyball, I mean, a little disappointing because they beat Ohio State on the road. Ohio State is like has a putrid record of like 2-13 overall, or now it's probably like 3-13. So they're not only not good in the Big Ten, they're just not really that good, period. And for Rutgers to fall short 3-2 in both of the matches and their, return home to JMA and to College Ave Gym, especially losing to Ohio State team who's that much worse, like that just doesn't really feel great. But obviously it's not really a great team or a great season, but they have made progress from where they were last year, because they were basically that team last year. They only won 6 games all season, so unfortunate. But I mean, now they go to the West Coast. I think those two teams are ranked or receiving votes, so probably going to be a rough sledding out there on the West Coast. But it is what it is. But I mean, overall, it's a busy
You're still
time.
hoping they get something insane, right?
Yeah, I mean, upsets do happen. Like, you never know something could happen like unexpectedly. But JMA is just really busy nowadays because volleyball still plays there, wrestling, men's and women's basketball. That arena is like in action like almost every day. It feels like, so multiple women's games, a men's game, volleyball was like on Friday. So wrestling was all of last weekend. So I mean, yeah, it's definitely popping as the fall sports start to wind down. The winter sports are heating up, and that's pretty much where we're at.
There's no better place to be in a cold winter.
And then Jersey Mike's, yeah.
Yeah, it's the rack, but
the rack, exactly.
But that pretty much does it for everything that we have here today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember, if you have the opportunity, you like our podcast, give us 5 stars on Spotify, Apple Podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel, tell your friends, family. It really does help us out and help us try to grow what we're doing here. But again, really appreciate you guys sticking through another hour of talking Rutgers with us. And as always, the bells must ring.